Thought of them before that gives you sort of macroeconomic takes on what's happening. Here's his review of President Biden so far. Biden was off to a great start in his first 24 hours. His executive orders should raise costs, reduce energy independence, anger two key allies, cut jobs, strengthen unions, materially increase regulations, raise gas prices, and increase inflation even more quickly than many thought. In addition, his firings at NLRB and CFPB will result in massive new regulations and fines on innocent companies, and he is just getting going. And you thought Trump was the best at upsetting people? Stopping the pipeline has reduced good-paying union jobs by many thousands, especially if you count jobs at steel companies producing the pipe, collateral jobs to support the construction, and those at suppliers to steel plants. Canada is furious for the job losses there, and they claim the order violates the USMCA. They plan to sue. States involved are angry because it costs them substantial tax revenue. Gas prices will eventually rise with less supply of oil when combined with the order shutting drilling on federal land, which I will add, of course, also upset one of his identitarian constituencies, so he claims, and that would be Native Americans, a tribe in Utah, sent a letter to the Department of Interior excoriating the Biden administration for the cutting off of drilling on federal land. But just on the Keystone Pipeline, there was something else in that executive order that went really underreported. Section 7 of the order, which includes the revocation of the permit for the Keystone Pipeline, also revokes several climate and energy-focused executive orders penned by the Trump administration. And also, the Trump order banning Chinese communist involvement in the U.S. power grid. That is now an open question. The Trump-era order sought to ban, replace, and set new criteria on bulk power system electric equipment coming from a foreign country or national that poses a national security threat. The order from the press release on Trump's order prohibits utilities that supply critical defense facilities from procuring from the People's Republic of China specific bulk power system electric equipment that poses an undue risk to the bulk power system, the security or resilience of critical infrastructure, the economy, national security, safety, security of Americans. That's what we've talked about, including with national security and technology folks. The 5G grid, you don't want China controlling, building your 5G grid and then having access to it. Well, according to Biden's executive order on the Keystone Pipeline, the fate of that Trump prohibition on China's participation in 5G, the 5G grid here, that is going to be up to the Secretary of Energy and the Director of the Office of Management and Budget to jointly consider whether to recommend that a replacement order be issued. So he's reopening the door to Chinese communist involvement in our power grid. Oh, and by the way, that's a week after China slapped sanctions on 28 former Trump administration officials, including Mike Pompeo, including HH Secretary Alex Azar, including White House Trade Advisor Peter Navarro, including former National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, prohibiting those individuals and their immediate families from entering mainland China, Hong Kong, and Macau. They're also restricted from doing business with China, as are any companies or institutions associated with them, because they were so antagonistic to China on behalf of the president. So Trump administration officials get sanctioned. Biden issues an executive order. The top line, of course, is the Keystone Pipeline because of the energy independence and job implications. And the subtext is opening the door possibly to China getting back involved with the development of our 5G grid here. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Steve Moore, economist, Wall Street Journal columnist, author of Trumponomics. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Dan. Hi, Amy. By the way, I actually spent I'm kind of a policy nerd, so I actually spent the last couple of nights reading these executive orders. There's been a blizzard of them. You just mentioned one. And by the way, this is really consistent with the cartoon that we had in our newsletter the day after the election with Biden with the red hat on his head that said, "Make China great again."
Yeah.
Because what could go wrong here, Dan? I mean, what's wrong with having the Chinese communists in charge of our electric grid system and our 5G system? Gee, that sounds like a really good idea. But there's a lot of look. One of the ones that I would add to what you're talking about. Remember one of the things you and I were proudest of that Trump did was remember that declaration that for every new regulation under the Trump administration, at least 2 would be repealed, and it ended up about an 8-to-1 ratio. That is, for every new regulation, about 8 were repealed. Well, one of the first executive orders that nobody paid much attention to was repealing that. And I love the language that Biden used. He said, this policy is unnecessarily frustrating our regulators.
Yeah.
Well, that was the idea.
Yeah. And also, too, I mean, again, citing your outlet there, the Wall Street Journal, a few days ago, noting that under Trump, the United States led the world in carbon emission reduction, which is now 25% below 2005 levels before COVID. And so we're signed back on to the Paris Accord, which has no impact on China and India.
Right.
And China and Germany are in the process of building more coal plants while the U.S. has been decommissioning most of them. What are we doing?
Yeah, so for every time we shut down a coal plant, and by the way, there's coal in Illinois. Did you know that, Dan? In southern Illinois,
don't tell anybody.
It's
That's our little secret.
It's not Southern Illinois.
Yeah, right.
Southern Illinois is as the inert coal energy of Saudi Arabia. Our coal to their oil. Seriously.
Yeah, exactly. So there, so every time we shut down, here's our climate change policy, folks, in a nutshell. Every time we shut down a coal plant, India and China build 10 new coal plants, and somehow that's going to reduce, carbon emissions in the global atmosphere.
But also too, Germany is building more coal plants. It's not just the East; it's the West.
Yeah, so actually that's a whole nother story, and we could, but people don't realize this. I don't wonder if the Biden administration people know this, but what happened, just very quickly, the Germany story is really instructive. So about 10, 15 years ago, Germany went all in on green energy. And this is the German engineering. They have all these manufacturing plants, and they engineer so much, the BMWs and all the cars. And after about 7 years of that policy, it completely destroyed their industrial base because they're using energy that's 2 or 3 times more expensive than the United States and other countries were. So they completely abandoned the green energy stuff and they went back to fossil fuels and they're back in business. Meanwhile, we're repeating their mistakes. But I'm going to give you guys a quiz this morning because I was just reading these statistics last night. As I said, I'm a policy nerd. This is what I do. And so the Department of Energy just came out with their numbers. For the final numbers for 2019 on where our energy comes from. And most people, I notice when I talk to students and stuff, and I say, do you know where your electricity comes from? And they point to the little pocket in the wall, and they say, it comes right out of there. That's where it comes from. But most Americans don't really understand where their energy comes from. Now, here for $100, Dan and Amy, and I'll let each of you guess, what percentage of our energy today do you think comes from the evils of oil, gas, and coal, the fossil fuels?
80%.
Wow, you are right on the dime. Exactly.
Thank you.
She's a bit of an energy policy woman.
I didn't even Google it.
Yeah.
That was all natural. Yeah. Thank you.
Amy, were you the one in grade school was raising your hand saying, I know.
If I didn't sit in the first row, I wasn't going to class. 81%.
Yes. You were right on the dime.
Before she was a radio talk show host.
Are you ready?
Well, before she was a radio talk show host, you should know that Amy used to design nuclear power plants. So that's how she knows so much about the energy sector.
So here is my question for you. What percentage of our energy comes from wind and solar power?
Dan?
I'm going to say less than 4%.
You guys
I'm
are
saying
smart.
5%.
It's somewhere around 4 to 5%. So
once again, the brilliance over here.
Most Americans have no idea. If you ask most Americans, they say, "Oh, we get about half of our energy from wind and solar." You'd think so because we spent hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars on wind and solar, and they are trivial. They're trivial. So let's just do a thought experiment. Let's say that Biden is successful. Let's say that we quadruple. I don't think we could do this, but let's say in the next 5 to 10 years we could quadruple the amount of energy we get from wind and solar. Folks, where are we going to get the other 80% of our energy?
I got the answer, Steve. I got the answer for you.
There we go.
You don't need you only need that 4% because we're going to shut all the businesses down.
Exactly. No, but this is if you really wanted to shut down the American economy, if you wanted to have this sinister, approach to destroying the American economy, if you were Dr. Evil, then what would you do? You would shut down the energy sources of the economy, and it would shut down every factory, every airline, every store. But this, you don't screw around with country's energy source. And, we were starting to see the price of gasoline tick up. I don't know. Are you seeing that in Illinois? Because we're seeing it. Yeah. And that's not an accident. You're going to keep pushing up gas prices because it's very simple economics 100, guys. When you restrict the supply of something, what happens to its price? It goes up. And so, we're playing a very dangerous game here. I'm going to throw out another number for you, which is really amazing. Okay. In November of 2020, I think Trump's basically one of his last months in office, for the first time in any of our lifetimes, do you know how much oil we imported from Saudi Arabia?
Zero. First time in our lifetimes. Wow. And that's because we were producing oil and gas here, and we had pipelines that we could get it to places. So that's a pretty amazing statistic. For the first time in our lifetime, we're not dependent on Saudi Arabia for one drop of oil. I guarantee you, a year from now, we are going to be importing a lot more oil from Saudi Arabia. The Saudi oil sheiks and Vladimir Putin are rolling over, laughing with glee at the Biden energy policy.
Well, what about the Keystone Pipeline workers? I mean, you have 11,000 losing their jobs, including 8,000 union jobs, by the way. And I don't know if you saw the video of them. They had a press conference, and I could not stop crying because I feel so bad for all these workers and their family members, and some have been working on the construction since 1997. And so, what do people think is going to happen? Because you still have to get the crude from Canada into the U.S. So you have to take it on trains, you have to drive it on semi-trucks, and that's much more dangerous than a pipeline.
Amy, I'm going to take that A grade away from you. You don't understand. The plan is we just shut down oil and gas production. That way we don't need the pipelines, right? I mean, this is really the way these leftists think. If we just shut down the way we can distribute the oil and gas, we won't use it, we won't drill for it, and we'll save the planet. Here's the story are you guys getting our newsletter every morning, the Prosperity Hotline? You got to get that because, we had a story yesterday about the biggest villain in this story, Amy, is not Joe Biden. I mean, Joe Biden actually declared in the campaign, he said, if you elect me president, if you elect me president, I'm going to shut down the Keystone Pipeline. He said he was going to do it. Now, here's the sinister part about this, and here's the villain. Do you know who the pipeline union endorsed for president?
Joe Biden.
I mean, talk about selling the rope to the hangman. So the union endorsed Joe Biden, even though he told them that he was going to destroy 10,000 of their own jobs. I mean, by the way, the first person who should lose their job in the cancellation of the Keystone Pipeline is that union president. I mean, how outrageous is that? And it shows that the union bosses in America do not represent the rank and file members. I bet 80% of the actual people who build the pipelines voted for Trump, but their union bosses were for Biden.
As we're repairing our relationships around the world in the Biden administration, we're doing a great job out of the gate with Canada. Also, Mexico, none too happy with the Biden administration. But Joe Biden has stopped all of the construction of the wall on the border. That defaults on $3 billion worth of signed contracts. One estimate is it will cost $700 million or more to get the U.S. out of those contracts. The cartels are moving operations to the Tucson area where there is no wall. And, of course, we have the caravans marshaling on the southern border, creating law enforcement issues for Mexico as well. So in the first week, we have managed under the wonderful unifying leadership of Joe Biden to upset both Canada and Mexico.
I warned you guys. I mean, how many times did I say this on your show over the last year that Joe Biden was no moderate, that if you let the left take over, they are like, they are, I'm not going to even say it, but they're out of their cages now. And they are, there's a blizzard of these policies coming out of the Biden administration. They're just getting started. And it's very frightening to me. And, you talk about the wall, look, I'm very pro-immigration. I think immigrants are great for our country. They've really kept our economy running over the last year. But, the idea is, if you're going to build the wall, what's the point of getting 70% of the way done with building the wall and then stopping it? I mean, does that make any sense?
No, it makes no sense at all. Just finish the project.
What?
Finish the project and then be done with it.
Exactly. And by the way, once the wall is built, And once Americans feel like the border is secure, then I think we should let more legal immigrants into this country. Legally.
Yep.
We need, the Wall Street Journal had a great piece, and we need more scientists and engineers and construction workers. Around the country, there's a shortage of construction workers. In a lot of areas, you can't even get a construction project started because there's a shortage. Guess who's working on all those construction projects? A lot of the immigrants who come in, they're the hardest working people, but they got to come in legally. And I wonder when that caravan from Honduras gets to the border and they spill over the border because, basically Biden says anybody who wants to come can come. I was wondering if you think, guys, that they will be eligible for that $2,000 payment when they cross the border.
Steve Moore, economist, Wall Street Journal columnist, Trumponomics author. Thanks for joining us, Steve. Appreciate it.
Have a great week, guys. Take care.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. On AM 560. The Answer.
Take control of your documents and data with content services and document imaging solutions from IDT and Highland On Base. Those documents are doing your employees no good while they're continuing to work from home. Let IDT show you how to onboard your documents anywhere, anytime, safely and securely into the cloud using IoT smart connected scanning solutions from IDT and content service solutions from Highland Software, the makers of OnBase. IDT helps Chicagoland businesses eliminate paper at its source, automate manual business processes, and develop comprehensive, affordable content services and document management practices. In today's world, electronic content management, accounts payable automation, streamlined business processes throughout your organization are no longer a luxury, but a necessity.
Set up a consultation today. Visit ready4idt.com. That's ready, the number 4, IDT.com. Or call 877-SCAN-IDT. IDT, putting paper in its place.
All right, I'm doing it in a half hour. Oh, yeah, taking the balance of nature, do it every day. Why? Because I want a strong, healthy immune system, and that's why I take Balance of Nature. Not getting enough fruits and veggies on my own. Doctors who've come on this program say you need enough sleep, you need to exercise, and you need to eat a well-balanced diet. Balance of Nature, gluten-free, no preservatives, no dyes. It has all the goodies, potassium, vitamin D, vitamin C. Call their health coaches. They tell you you don't even need to take supplements when you take Balance of Nature. Here's what you do. Call this number, 800-246-8751. That's 800-246-8751. Use discount code Chicago or go online to balanceofnature.com. Discount code Chicago.
Hi, I'm Jim Boyd, here to tell you about an incredible cost-saving opportunity you should consider for your building, office, or facility. For 30 years, Boyd Electric has been a local 134 electrical contractor providing quality service and technology.